What's cracking, everybody? James Coe, the Sleeper King, here with you. Today we are breaking down the depth charts of the AFC East. And in this series, we're going to do an in-depth breakdown of every single depth chart in the NFL. And this should help y'all determine who is a frontline starter, who's going to be in a timeshare, who is the handcuffs, and of course, I wouldn't be the Sleeper King without telling y'all about the deep sleepers. We're talking about the handcuffs to the handcuffs. Who are some dark horse running backs that could emerge? And we are gonna start with the Buffalo Bills. James Cook coming off of that monster 18 touchdown performance last season. From a skills perspective, again, I'm not breaking any news here. Well-rounded back, super explosive, man, north-south speed for days, and extremely good out of the backfield as well. Now, that being said, when you take a look at running back opportunities, when you combine carries and targets, James Cook only took home 55% of the running back opportunities there in Buffalo. That ranked 21st in the NFL. Now, you can take that as the Bills thinking they're okay with that number, that it's going to be a 55-45 split, and that they're going to use multiple running backs to kind of fill that position. Or, if you want to make the high side case for James Cook, there is room to grow. We all figure the touchdown totals are going to come down. That's why James Cook is not going that high in drafts right now. But if the volume goes from 55% to 65% running back opportunity share, the volume might make up for that difference. Either way, job security, 10 out of 10. All right, let's talk about the backups, Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. It very much feels like people want to make Ray Davis a much bigger thing than he actually is. Sure, he made some splash plays, of course, no doubt, but on a play-by-play, down-by-down basis, he was not anywhere in the same ballpark or vicinity as James Cook in terms of reliability. 3.91 yards per carry for Ray Davis, 4.87 yards per carry for James Cook. Now, that being said, should something befall James Cook, I think the Bills have made it very clear they have positioned Ray Davis to be the backup. Last year, he took home 31% of the running back carries last year. Again, a very healthy number considering their starter, James Cook, played 16 games. As for the randos, they've got Darrynton Evans and Frank Gore Jr. Evans is on his 5th NFL team in 6 years. The son of the legendary senior, Gore Jr., stuck on with the Bills as an undrafted free agent in 2024. He was on their practice squad last year, and I think we're looking at a similar situation in 2025. All right, we go down to South Beach. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. Devin Achane is crazy explosive. We know this. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry in 2024 after a 2023 season where he ran an insane, unsustainable 7.8 yards per carry, although it was across 100 carries that year. He's an explosive runner, but man, where this guy is an absolute difference maker is obviously out of the backfield as a pass catcher. 87 targets last year. That was the second most among running backs. 78 receptions. That led the NFL in terms of the running back position. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause is his size. He's 5'8.5" and weighs 188 pounds. Now, I'm saying this knowing that he didn't miss any games in 2024. That being said, he did suffer a mild high ankle sprain and suffered a concussion as well. But we obviously know that a major knee injury, an MCL injury, cost him 7 games in 2023. I think the Dolphins know this too, because despite being the starter, he only took home 53.1% of the running back carries last year. That ranked 30th in carry share per game. Only because I worry about durability, job security, 7.5 out of 10. By the way, if you enjoy videos like this, man, consider hitting that like and subscribe button to this channel. And right now, RotoWire is going to give you 15% off any RotoWire subscription by using my code, COH15. That's KOH 15. Check out RotoWire's draft kit, their mock draft simulator, and of course, all the rankings you need from some of the best analysts in the game. All right, let's talk about the backups. Jaylen Wright and Alexander Mattison. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson are off this team now, and they combined for 26.4% of the running back carries last year. I'm not saying that Jaylen Wright absorbs that entire amount, but it's very realistic to expect Jaylen Wright to take home 45, maybe even 50% of the running back carries next year. And we know the second-year player out of Tennessee is an absolute athletic freakazoid. 210 pounds, he ran a 4.38 40 with a 38-inch vertical. Next Gen Stats gave him an athletic score of a 99. Obviously, Jaylen Wright didn't do a lot his rookie season, but can I say this? It seems as if Tennessee offensive players take a little bit of time to get transitioned to the NFL. The Volunteers run this kind of strange, stripped-down offense, and I think that's why a lot of their offensive players who have made the jump to the NFL have really not done very much their rookie season. Just going back in recent years, we're looking at Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Velus Jones, Josh Palmer, Jawan Jennings. I get that these are all wide receivers, but they all pretty much did nothing their rookie seasons. And yet, as the seasons wore on, a lot of these guys got better. I wonder if we see a similar growth curve for Jaylen Wright. If so, we are talking about a running back that gives you some standalone value because, again, Miami seems pretty determined to not overload their starter in Devin Achane. And given his freakish athletic skills, don't be surprised if Jaylen Wright, if he develops, given those opportunities, makes the most of it. He's one of my absolute favorite handcuffs because, again, I think he's got standalone value, and should something happen to Devin Achane, man, sky's the limit. I know everyone's thinking like, well, what about Alexander Mattison? Look, if I'm discounting Alexander Mattison, it's because he did not look good last year. He averaged just 3.2 yards per carry for the Raiders last year. He's really experienced in running outside zone, which is why I think he's on the Dolphins. All right, as for the randoms, I'm talking about Ollie Gordon, a 6th round pick out of Oklahoma State. This guy's an absolute hammer. At 6'1", 226 pounds, he's the heftiest of all the Miami backs. But he posted a subpar 4.61 40 with a 34.5-inch vertical. I thought Ollie Gordon was way better in man gap, and again, between the tackles, yeah, absolute hammer. But again, the Dolphins, they want to run outside zone. That's why I thought this selection was really curious. I don't know why, but it feels like the drumbeat, the chorus of people saying that Breece Hall is not an elite back is growing and growing. And to me, that's just absurd. He's one of the most fluid athletes in the NFL at the running back position. And man, to me, I think he's one of the best backs in the NFL. And if we're just going off of vibes, like if you listen to the Twitter traffic, you would have thought that Breece Hall absolutely stunk up the joint last year. When in reality, in 16 games played, he racked up 1,359 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 57 receptions, which is good for 4th most among all running backs. When you put it all together, yeah, he was the RB16, so I get it. He was a disappointment last year given his top 5 ADP. But given how bad the Jets season was, and again, I just laid out those numbers, man. Those are pretty good numbers. I'm not gonna spend that long talking about Breece Hall, man. Job security, 9.5 out of 10. As for the backups, Braelon Allen and Isaiah Davis. These are two very similar players. Allen looks like he's chiseled from stone, man. 6'1", 235 pounds out of Wisconsin. He plays a little bit like Isaiah Pacheco, very north-south, but Pacheco does have him on the speed department. Pacheco ran a 4.37. Allen was never measured for the 40, but estimates put him in the mid to low 4.4s, for whatever that's worth. I think it's pretty much presumed that Braelon Allen is the handcuff to Breece Hall. Breece took 67% of the running back carries last year. Meanwhile, Braelon Allen, a very healthy, very solid 28% of the running back carries. But can we be real? He struggled big time for the vast majority of the season. I feel like the Braelon boys are gonna come after me, and make no mistake, he's got a very vocal fan base. But starting in week 5, this is 13 games we're talking about here. Braelon Allen averaged a shockingly low 3.1 yards per carry average, and he was below 3 yards per carry in 8 of those 13 games. Breece Hall averaged 4.2 yards per carry, and the other guy that I'm talking about, Isaiah Davis, he was the best of the bunch. Obviously, it's a very small sample size, 30 carries, but Isaiah Davis did average 5.8 yards per carry across those 30 carries. He's also 6'1", he's a hefty 220 pounds, and much like Braelon Allen, is very much a straight line player. If Breece goes down with injury, Isaiah Davis would likely be the handcuff to the handcuff, if that makes sense. All right, very quickly, let's talk about the randoms. Nwangu, Zach Evans, and Donovan Edwards out of Michigan. I think the first two guys, probably not worth talking about, but Donovan Edwards out of Michigan has athletic traits. 5'11", 205 pounds. He ran a 4.44 40 with a rock-solid 38.5-inch vertical. His 23 reps on the bench press, that was actually tops in the running back class this year. When you pop on the tape, I don't think those athletic traits show that well. The play strength was there. The long speed is there. If he gets into the second level, yes, he can absolutely turn on the Jets. Pun fully intended. But despite showing some short area burst with his vertical leap, I don't think we saw that in the game film. I thought he did a really good job in man gap. When he knew where the hole was supposed to be, he's gonna hit it hard. I just thought he was a little bit too rigid in that aspect. If the hole got blown up, he just didn't have the vision or creativity to kind of create on his own. I honestly have no idea what kind of run scheme that they're gonna run in New York, but if it is more man gap and not zone, Donovan Edwards could have a role on this team. Finally, let's talk about the New England Patriots. As for their starters, well, I think it's gonna be a 50-50 split between Rhamonde Stevenson and TreyVeon Henderson. I personally think Rhamonde is the more well-rounded, reliable back. But you've got to take draft capital, the coaching change, draft capital, and draft capital into account. TreyVeon was a very high second-round pick for the Patriots this year. Now, before we write off Rhamonde, remember, this is the same front office that did sign Rhamonde just last year to a 4-year, $36 million deal. That's why it feels like to me, when you take into consideration skill, draft capital, and contract, it looks like they're gonna go in the route of a 50-50 split. Let me get this out there. I am probably more bearish on TreyVeon Henderson than probably darn near anybody. Look, I like TreyVeon. I don't love TreyVeon. If you go tell TreyVeon Henderson to hit the A-gap, guess what? He's gonna hit that A-gap and he's gonna hit it hard. He's a tough runner and it brings that decisive, tough mentality to pass pro as well. You gotta love it. Potentially, he's a really good fit in this Josh McDaniels run scheme as well. The last time we saw Josh McDaniels in a head coaching role running an offense was in 2022. And that year, his team was pretty heavy into man gap, running man gap at the 9th highest rate in the NFL. Henderson's best plays, by far, hands down, no question, come when he's running in man gap. But the problem is, among the running backs that I charted, he was one of the worst. As a matter of fact, he was the worst when it came to running in zone. He scored a shockingly low 33.3% success rate on zone runs last year. Again, dead last in the charted class, with the class average being at 56.9%. Then when you factor in the pass catching ability, again, this is why I think that Rhamonde is a more well-rounded running back than TreyVeon Henderson. Now, if I'm gonna say that Rhamonde is the real starter here in New England, you also have to say his job security probably pretty low. Job security score, 5 out of 10. All right, let's talk about the backups. Just one, Antonio Gibson. If he's gonna have a role on this offense with this roster, it's gonna be because of his pass catch. Gibson took home 33.3% of the running back carries last year. I seriously doubt he gets to that number this year. As for the randoms, TreyVeon Henderson and a fella by the name of Lan Larison. Williams is the former Bengal. Given the roster construction right now, let's just even see if he makes the roster. I don't think he will. Larison, meanwhile, is a UDFA out of UC Davis. If you wanna talk about athletic traits, Larison's got him. He's 6 feet, 215 pounds, ran a really impressive 4.46 40, and had a rock solid 35.5-inch vertical with a 10-foot broad jump. But this guy's best trait, by far, no question, is his pass catching ability. He had more than a handful of just these difficult highlight reel one-handed grabs. We're talking full extension, over off to the side. His catch radius is insane. It was reported that the Saints and Lions were really interested in Larison. If you think about those two teams, Alvin Kamara, Jahmyr Gibbs, guys with some serious pass catching chops. But of course, the guy who looks like a volunteer firefighter ends up in New England.